All right, welcome everyone. This is a Viper trading webinar. Today's date is January 12, 2013. The title of the webinar is Advanced Scalping the Chop. And of course, we're going to be going over a lot of topics besides that too. And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or our live trading rooms, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, Forex trading, any kind of financial instrument trading does involve risk. And there is risk of loss when trading futures or any type of financial instruments. Okay, and as everyone knows that they do trade at their own sole discretion. Nothing we say in our webinars, trading rooms, or any of our rooms, anything like that has anything to do with trading. You do trade at your own sole discretion. All right. All right, let's see. Be sure and go ahead and get those questions ready too, because it's very important to answer those also. Now, what we're going to be talking about a little bit today, we're going to talk about breakout zones, which I think are super important because you're going to find out that on those breakout zones, you're going to get some really good trades. Keep in mind, too, that if you get a good trade and you can get one and done or a couple and done for the day, what's the whole idea of trading to begin with? Aren't we there to make money? We're absolutely there to make money, aren't we? That's the whole idea of trading. If we weren't doing that, we'd be working for somebody else, right? And some of you may be doing that at this time, but keep in mind that if you trade full time and you get good at it, you can make a very, very good living. All right, you should be able to see a chart. Now, what I'm going to show right now is oil, and I want to show you a little trick that I like to use when I scalp. Okay, because you can probably see right here, and it doesn't matter the time of the chart, we're just strictly looking at like a little scalp. I think everybody can clearly see that we're in a downtrend, right? We're clearly in a downtrend, but we started going sideways, okay? So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll draw a trend line, okay? And everybody knows I like trend lines to get out of trades to begin with, but they're also good to get into trades too. I want to show you what I'm talking about here. See this little trend line right here? We're just kind of drawing it along these highs right here. We still expect this market to go down because, let's face it, it's been heading down all night, right? Okay, let me show you a little trick that I like to use here. We're just going to take this basically a bar at a time, and I want to show you an area that you can really look to get back in this trade. Don't chase it, because see, if you were a breakout trader, to give an example right here. All right, let's say that you just said, you know what, if this thing keeps going down, I'm going to just go ahead and put a sell in, like right under here, for instance. All right, what does the market do to you every time? See that little breakout trade, and then what did they do? They popped right back up. Okay? Don't be a breakout trader. Now, there's times for breakouts, but it's not after a consolidation like that, because the market's going to fake you. That's their whole goal in life. We call them the they because they are evil. They want to take your money. And the they are the people out there that are good traders, by the way. Okay, so don't fall into that trap. All right, and another thing too, if you happen to have platinum, remember Rich talked about in Monday night's webinar, don't short when you get down in these areas to begin with. He does not like to short when you get down on platinum's dynamic trend. And I'm showing the dynamic trend on this chart so we can kind of scalp it. All right, but I'm also going to show you a way to do a simple little trend line that you can scalp too. All right, keep in mind that you want to make sure that you're, if you're going to short this thing, you want to make sure that you're heading down. Well, obviously, we're heading down. We have a high, a low, a lower high, even a little lower high, and a lower low. So even at that moment, we could be looking for a trade, very possibly to go back to the downside for a scalp. Now, keep in mind on scalps, you're not going to necessarily win on every one of them. So today, there's a little bit more advanced, okay? And if you want to wait around a little bit more for some of this consolidation to end and do the other type of trading that we teach, that's also fine. But I want to show you a little bit of ways that you can scalp this. All right, let's wait for it to get any kind of retracement first, all right? We're going to take a short when it tags that trend line. All right, see how we've got our trend line just perfectly drawn across those tops. All right, there's our candle And if it reverses to the other side, I'm going to go ahead and take a short. Okay, that's shorted right there at 19. All right. Now, this particular trade, what are we trying to do? Okay. See, we've got a trend line drawn. We know for a fact that we've got resistance here. We've got resistance here. Or pardon me, support, not resistance. Beg your pardon on that one. Support here, and support here. Okay. So that's our targets. Okay. When you take a trade like this, always keep in mind that even those minor targets, if this is deciding to go up instead of down, well, for one thing, you're going to take out this high over here because that was your previous high, right? Let's go ahead and draw that on our chart. All right, this I will turn to a red circle because this is a downtrend, a red ellipse. We'll go ahead and set it as our default because we're in a short right now. All right. Get in the habit of seeing these or drawing these, okay? It's very, very important. How can you tell if a candle closes down if no wick? You know, actually on that, the way that you can do it, if you get in the habit of really watching it, you'll notice that a candle will open a little higher, like by a wick, and then I could just tell that was closing down. But there's another way you can do it too if you want to. Just go ahead and change your candles up here. Instead of candlesticks, you could actually do your open, high, low, close. Okay, if you want to see that, I'll go ahead and change it. And we're going to have to widen it a little bit so you can see it. Alt down would be the width of them. See there? See how that opened right there on the left-hand side and closed down right there? But you can actually tell by looking at candlesticks too if you've been looking at them long enough, really, really easily. All right, I'm going to go back to candlesticks because I don't really like those bars like that, but you can tell by looking at them. All right, now what I want to do is I actually just want to hit this area here, here, possibly even here or here. That's my areas of support. Now this is your most left-wise area of support, right? This one here and this one. So my goal when I take this trade right here is just strictly a scalp to there. Okay? And if I see that I can get 10 ticks, and you can clearly see on your chart you're at 93.01, shorts up here, and you've got at least 10 ticks, right? That's pretty important. Now let's go ahead and watch this trade. All right, feeling a little heat, but we expect it, okay? We expect it to come up and test resistance. All right, let's just stay in it. All right, and I'm going to protect some coin right there, okay? The reason for that is because that's a previous low, okay? Now, if this candle, the next candle goes down, I'm going to stick with the trade. We talk about that all the time. What I like to personally do, just in case I can get a gusto trade, is take this trade just like this. Just draw that trend line straight down like that, okay? And I can't really draw it except for using an extended line, but you can kind of see when it's going to cross it. All right, see it crossed it right there. See it as you take that trend line down. Now that's a beautiful way to trade for scalping, by the way. Just wait for that first little pull down, little pull back, and then heads down and you get your line drawn. All right, now let me ask you a question. If you want to trade this again, what would you do with that line? Because something that I like to do is this right here. Let me just take it off, draw it again. I'm going to draw it now through this high and through that high. That should be my trend line that they kiss, right? See it right there? All right, let's see if we can get one more trade. Maybe two, I don't know. We'll see. See how I just kissed that trend line beautifully that we just drew? Now I would short that, okay? If you're leery of this, the way to short this is just don't let them take out this previous high. Let's see, 93.19 trade would put your stop around 93.26. Let's look at that and see. You know, we actually would have taken that trade, remember, right here at 19. So yeah, your stop would have been just above that swing. I usually do it a couple of ticks or so just so they don't wick me. That's at 20, what, 23? So probably 25 even. You might even go 26. Because the whole idea is if you pick a trade that's you feel is going to go your way, your stop's not as important, right? Because you expect it to do what you expect it to do. Okay? Because each and every trade that you take, you want to make sure that you're really analyzing your chart and you know that your trend is still heading the way you're looking at. Okay? We can clearly see that we had another low, a lower high, right? So why not try one more? See what I mean? That's still heading down, right? Still heading down. So I'm going to take this one also. Now, where would my stop be on this one? Well, if I happened to have grabbed it the second it hit the line, I would have gotten 19. But let's say that I didn't. Maybe I got, I don't know, 18, all right, or even 17. But my stop would be just right above this swing. Okay? Now, this is actually more of a scalp type trading for when you've had a long trend. Okay? See, this literally moved all night long. What was that? 93.90. It moved 90 some odd ticks at least. So we expect it to chop. Okay? Now, if you can see lower highs and lower lows draw your trend line like this, but what if you see a flat range? In other words, you're seeing something like this. Let me just draw it. Like let's say you saw a low and then you saw a high and it was exactly the same, and you could basically draw a box around it. Something like this. Wow, that's a dark box. Let me change that. All right. Now, what you would do in a case like this, keep in mind you're not going to do it with 10 ticks. See, we drew that box way too small. You're going to want to do scalping on, at least somewhere around a 20 tick, something like that. So if, for instance, you saw that you had a high here, you had a low here, and you did this even one time, well, couldn't you actually buy support, sell resistance, buy support, sell resistance? And sure, they'll wick you a little bit, but a lot of times you'll see it where they'll just go straight sideways. Now, if you can for sure tell that they're actually heading down like we can here, then your trend line is the best bet. And this is still technically a trend line. It's just not trending, right? Because here's your trend line, like so. Okay, just a line straight across the top. Bear with me a second. Let me get rid of that one. All right, everybody see that? Because we talk about that a lot. Now, if you don't want to scalp areas like this, and you're not ready to make that decision, the moment that does the little kiss, believe me, there's a lot of times you can make some really good money in those choppy areas. Because if for instance, a buyer's down here and takes 10 ticks, waits for it to pull back, you'll hear Rich talk all the time about, taking a trade, getting a few ticks, comes back to your price again, get the trade again. And that's when it's in that sideways junk like that. Let's see, do I look at the angle and decide if it's shallow or too deep? Well, for one thing, you're going to be watching the trend itself, okay? Let me just draw something on here too real quick. Bear with me one second. All right, like even in this move right here, pretty much, right through here, okay, see how that's still a good downtrend, but now it's pretty much going choppy? You've broken a downtrend and, you're just kind of going sideways. Anytime you start getting these lows that aren't a lot lower than before, let me just show you what I'm talking about here. That's how we get out of some of these great trades like this in the room too. See this low right here and this low? That's lower, right? By a number of ticks. See that area right there? Isn't this low right here also quite a bit lower? All right, then it had a little high and it had even a low that was at least 10, 15 ticks. All right, but look at this one, 93.01 to 93.10. That's only 9 ticks. That's not a lot lower. So that's starting to tell you that you're going into a little bit of consolidation, right? We see this live in the room all the time where you finally, give up the ghost, so to speak, because you're starting to get lower highs and lower lows, but they're starting to do it more in a kind of a channel, so to speak. Let's see, will the same type of trade work on the 4 VIP Branco? I assume it needs some adjusting for that. Ofer, I haven't actually tried it on the 4 VIP Branco. The 2 VIP, I would think, would work quite well on it. You'd have to just look at it. But what I've traded for almost 5 years now is these 4-range charts. So I can just see things happening on them that I really like. All right, let's take this short right here again, though. Okay. Okay, did we get another scalp yet? Not yet. And we did, right? That's at least 10 ticks. That's a decent scalp with a couple of contracts, basically $400 and $400. Okay. Pardon me, four contracts would be $400, $400. 2 contracts would be $200 or more, because this particular trade was even better, right? Okay. And this little trade right here, same way to get out. Just like so. Just watch for the first little pullback. Draw that line. See if it takes it. Nope, still in, still in, still in, and now you're out. See it? It just hit your, and it took out your trend line. You can see it taking out the trend line. You can get in the habit of seeing these trend lines and take these trades off, especially when you're scalping. Now, I don't care if this goes on down and takes us out, because that's a nice scalp. Okay, let's see. If the price breaks the trend line, how do you know if it's going higher or just a fake out? Well, you've still got a swing anytime, right? You know, for instance, when you got in this little trade right here, okay, for sure, couldn't you have, even if you put a higher stop, this would have quit going down if it would have taken out this swing, right? Even here. That would be, you know, what I'd call more of a conservative stop. But when I'm drawing a trend line, all right, I'll usually take the trade. You know, this one, remember we drew it from here. Let me draw the line again because it was a little different, because here was your high and here was your high. Okay, remember that one? Right through, come on, line, drop in. There we go, right there. All right, see how it just hit the trend line and rolled? Okay, so you wouldn't expect it to even take out this little swing right here, even where my cursor's at. Because if this is going to start consolidating and trying to go back to the upside, they're going to start taking out highs. But right now, you've got lower highs and lower lows. And that's the whole idea of a trend. And you could continue shorting until it decides to change that direction. Okay, let's look at it. See, we had that one. All right, remember we drew this other trend line right here. We had that short. All right. You've still got a trend line drawn right across here. We're not getting it too confusing. Let me get rid of this last one, the first one. Because see, we still got this trend line. It's still, see the highs there? Perfectly hit them. So we're still heading lower. Let's check it. We're going to lose on one here in a minute. This is where scalping will finally turn the other direction. Now, you don't want to go along when it does that, but see how you're still getting lower highs and lower lows? Let's see if we continue. Now you're getting the same low. See, we'd already be out of the trade because we scalped it up here. Remember? Scalped it up here. Didn't take out this low. So if it takes out this high right here, then your scalping's done. Let's just watch and see if it did. No scalp anymore. See it? Took out the high. So now what do? You can wait for a higher retracement that is in your longer term trend. See, you're still a high way up here, low way down here. This is still a downtrend, right? But you're through scalping because you're taking out these highs. This is no longer a high, a low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high. Uh-oh. Double bottom, wasn't it? Matter of fact, it even missed it by a tick. And then what do? They're going to try to get some people into some breakout trades and fake them out. And, of course, you can simply wait for the next trade. Okay? Now, let's look at some other type of trades. This is just one of my favorite types right here that I like to do with trend lines. On a sharp drop, gusto, is it safe to take trades when the candles retrace back to the sharp trend line? Not as sharp of a trend line you wouldn't, Jack. What I like to do when I'm scalping, because scalping is not the gusto trades. Scalping is just strictly these little scalps. And that's what the whole idea of the webinar today is. It's just more on these scalps with trend lines. Okay. Now, another one of my favorite trades is when you get closer to the market open, right? Let's just go ahead and wait for the market open. Watch your trend too. See how stealth's starting to turn green right here? But see, your trend line's still down. So you expect this to go down, right? But let's just see what it does. Yeah, see, you got a trend line that changed right there. See it? Now, keep in mind that our longer-term guidance on Pro is still down. All right? Now, this is going to be a scalp based on this type of a move right here. I took this particular trade, by the way. I'll show you exactly where I entered it. I didn't get up at this time. I was just showing you how I would have scalped this. But let's go with another trade. Wait for a thrust down and a retrace. All right, so you got it. See your thrust down, your retrace. You can draw your trend line. There's your first yellow bar probe, by the way. Very first yellow bar probe. But you don't really have a trend line to draw just yet because that's the first pull down. So you need to see where it's going to stop and start heading back up. Okay, there's your entry. See it right there? Trend line break. What are you trying to do? You're trying to strictly scalp to here. And if you don't get it to there, get 10 ticks. Let's see what we did. I don't even remember on this trade, but in at about 33, okay? And you got 10 ticks. Your stop on this particular one, Andrew, would be if you got in on the yellow bar probe, okay, you've got a little swing right down here. See it? Right here at 20. Now, I'm not sure if I would have given it quite that much to begin with, because when I get a trend line break like this, it either goes my way, or if it goes up barely and then rolls, I get out of it. Let's see, do you look at the risk reward to your target and have less than 10 ticks, you still take the trade? Not if I can't see 10 ticks. I don't like a trade personally if I can't see 10 ticks. Because the whole idea of a trade, now I may take it out before 10 ticks. You'll hear Rich a lot of times will take 6, 7 ticks and he'll call it and, you know, then he'll ride the rest of the trade. Okay? But see, anytime you can get a 10 tick trade though, like this right here, for instance, 34. See, that clearly hit 10 ticks. You could set your line trader just strictly to take 10 tick trades all day long. You could have another one set up for runners. $100 bills are great, absolutely. And see, this particular trade, pardon me, was legit because our trend line changed. See on our dynamic trend right there. But wasn't it also taking out resistance? So what is the definition of a trend change? Well, you've got your low here, you got your first high here, you got a low here, and you need a higher high to confirm it's a trend, right? And then you would clearly draw a line to the downside like we're doing here, and if it doesn't do it, then you're still going short because guess what? The trend is still short on the longer term chart. Okay? We're scalping. All right, let's look and see where our trade was in the room. I wasn't in the room yesterday, but I was trading. All right. Here's another trend that you can draw. See the trend line? Now, this particular trade I took yesterday morning before the market opened. See this little thrust down, little retrace? I drew a trend line right there. By the way, this was even better, but I wasn't at my computer. See that perfectly hit that? And when it broke that trend line, I took the trade to the upside. Okay? And it got this beautiful move, and my out would have been right here at 10 ticks, or the swing, see there? And I got that trade. I think it was up like 600 some odd dollars too, because it was 4 contracts. 35 to see 47, and it went up even a little higher if I remember right. See? And then I drew my trend line. All right, my trend line can be right along these lows. See where you get the little thrust, little retrace. So there's your trend line. Everybody see it? Bear with me a second. This thing won't change back to a pointer. All right, see how I've got my first little thrust retrace? Very small, but it's still like that. And then you can simply draw your trend line and stick with the trade until it takes it out. And there's your out on the trade. By the way, that was also a short because what did we get? We got our zone. Remember? The zone is really important because this is the open of the market. Okay? This drew the zone automatically from 7:55 to 8 o'clock because I had my breakout zone set for that. Just show you here. See, there's 8:31, there's our 10:02 time, and there was the open right there. Okay, that's the open zone right there. All right? And let me ask a question. I wasn't in the room all morning, but I just about bet you that there was a short called right here, or right at 52 or 51. Am I right? Was there a trade called in the room? Does anybody remember it? There was, okay. I kind of figured because it's a zone. I mean, it's just a beautiful zone break. It also broke a trend line, didn't it? So breaking this trend line, where do we expect this to go? Even though this could be heading up, all right, because you're clearly getting, whoa, wait a minute, thrust, retrace, thrust. That's right there is the definition of a trend change if this then takes out this high that it's trying to set up once it gets a low that then tries to take that high out. Everybody see what I mean? That's that 1, 2, 3 we talk about. But see how this clearly made some trades? 1, 2, long trades. Oh, okay. Laura says, unfortunately, Rich had to call it late because Charles was talking about another chart. But he did call evidently then? Yeah. I kind of figured he would because I saw the trade too. And this particular trade, by the way, right here, okay, on a zone break, did he call 53? Well, that's even better than 52. That's awesome. Okay. Now, one of the reasons he called that, you're going to notice, well, wait a minute. Gary took a long here. Gary took a long here. Then why are we shorting it here? Okay, because isn't it obviously higher highs and higher lows right now? Yes, but remember, we forget all of this when we zone trade. If you want to. Now, if you don't want to do that, you're going to miss out on some pretty good trades that drop like a stone or, go up like a rocket ship. All right, but anyway, this little zone that was drawn was from 56 to 32. Andrew A., could you please say again why zone break alone indicates trade? Because the market is opening. Okay, let's look at something else too. Bear with me one second. I'm going to get a larger range chart so you can really see what's going on too. Bear with me a second. I'm going to get a 12 range up. I don't trade a 12, but I want to show you why you can actually see something even better on it. Bear with me just a second. I'm getting it. All right, right here's that time. Let's see, I'm going to get rid of one more candle. There we go. Right here's that time. All right, so on a 12 range chart, we had a high, we had a low way down here. We had a high here, which has barely been taken out by this candle here. So if they were going to retrace, they would probably retrace somewhere like here, for instance, if they were to make it. And if they weren't, they'd roll over. And that's the line that we've got drawn right there is pretty much a rollover. See it underneath those candles? Right there. See if I can get it drawn. It's not going to be as accurate, but anyway, you'll be able to see it. See it breaking the trend line? That's the trade. But see, if you look at the overall picture of this, is this actually an uptrend? No, and see our dots are telling you so. Does that mean that you can't scalp it like I did right here? See, the whole idea of trading is that we're looking at trades not so much based on the longest trend there is, because you're going to have stops that are through the roof if you do that. But these zone breaks, when the market opens, okay, let's say, for instance, you would have shorted right here, okay, and like everybody said, Rich had called that call, all right, couldn't you have clearly put a reversal type trade 2 ticks above this, just in case this decided to come down, test support, which is here, and then just blow up like a rocket ship, which it could have done, right? Because this was trying to change trends. See, even the longer term trend started changing here. But we're not looking at trend when we open the market. We're looking at a zone box that we clearly teach how to trade. Okay? Now, even if you didn't get in that trade, all right, before the market ever opened, you could have clearly drawn that trend line right there, and you could have gotten in at 50. Or, you know, let's say that you're a little gun shy. You said, you know what, I'm not going to get in unless it takes out this set of lows. See what I mean? You could even put a short right there, because it is breaking. You're not taking out the top. The market just opened, and what does the market do a lot of times? The market has already checked a resistance area. It took it out by a few ticks, and then what are they going to do? They're going to try to check support areas, and then as they head down, they'll probably even try to check all the way down to there. Okay? So when we're trading the zone trades, and by the way, these zone trades are phenomenal. I mean, you can make some serious coin trading these trades. Okay? Now, this particular trade right here was called at 53, I think Laura said. I would have probably missed 53. You know, I might have gotten this one right here because of the zone break. I don't remember exactly, but I was watching it. I don't remember how fast it went, but I shorted it. But in the scalp, I actually got a 16-tick move on that one to the upside, because this was a trend at the time that was up. So I was taking this trade. I took like that trade right there. These trades I didn't take because I wasn't even up. But I wanted to show you how to trade these, that you can clearly see how to trade them. Okay? Let's see. Let's stop for a minute and see if there's any questions. Just a second. What is the percentage of success on the zone trades at the CL Open? I would say it would be very, very high. I know we take zone type trades, and you know they're usually through the roof. Now, what you can do also, so that you don't get messed up quickly on a trade, something that you can also do, some of our traders actually have like sub-accounts with their brokers, you know, split their accounts up into different account numbers. And, you know, you could actually have line traders sitting there waiting just in case this would have busted up. You could have had a long sitting right here. Well, with line trader, you could actually have had a short and a long. But keep in mind, once it did the short, it wouldn't have fired the long until you had flattened it. So you could actually have a separate account, and you could actually do that too. Robert, I'll be happy to show line trader. Give me, say, 20 minutes and then put that same question up, okay? Because line trader would actually take that trade right there. Okay? You can draw it on the chart. You could draw this one on the chart. What line trader actually does is just simply a trendline trader that takes a trade. You'll actually see a dashed line when you first start line trader, and when you enable it, there's some buttons on the left, and I'll show them to you here in a few minutes, that would actually enable that trade, and it would fire it the moment it takes it out by 1 tick. Okay, but the important thing to think about zone trades is that you're really looking for just what's happening. It's just strictly price action at the open. Okay, if you're a little afraid to take that kind of a trade, at least draw a trend line. You know, use line trader or draw a trend line, because obviously looking at this chart, that looks like it was going to head up, didn't it? It kind of did at the time, didn't it? Let's see, what is the green trend line change based on? Is it Bollinger Band deviation? Jerry, you're talking about this right here? This line? This is actually some software that Rich has been working on for a little over a year, maybe even longer, I don't know, but I've talked to him several times during the year. This is actually Rich's brainchild, dynamic trend, and then also the right edge. Rich is a very analytical person. You know, who knows, one time in his life he may have been an analyst for somebody. But the whole idea of his type of analytical mind, though, and putting it into software is just, it's great. I mean, we like trading what Rich develops. And some of the things, you know, our people have come up with. You know, they've told us, hey, I'd like something like this, and we've put it into our program. The line trader was my idea. We've had that for a little over 2 years. The background colors are basically telling you when a trend change could be happening. You know, for instance, we like a first yellow bar probe after trend change, which that was one. Okay. The zone trade, by the way, yes, you would set it 5 minutes before the open on oil. Now, keep in mind, we have different rules for different times of trading zones. For news, we like to trade it 1 minute after the news hits and 5 minutes after. To give an example, like oil inventory on Wednesday morning, it happens at 9:30 my time, Central Time. So I set my zone box for 9:31 to 9:35. And then I just simply watch it, and I keep an eye on what is my trend actually doing, what are they wanting to do with this market, and then I draw my trend lines. Okay? Let's see. I've seen you have a lot of success taking trades coming into the zone. I like, just to give an example, like right here, wasn't this actually at the moment, even though it was still a longer term downtrend, wasn't this actually changing trend, at least for the moment? Well, we got the signal right here. That's why I took a long right there. Okay? And I took that long right there too. But when it broke the zone, you're short. The broker that on our website, Gustavo, that we recommend actually is Mirror's Futures, because they use the Zenfire data feed, and I personally think Zenfire is about the best data out there myself. How do you set more than one zone in the chart? Okay, soon I'll go over that too. By the way, if some of the people that are newer want to stick around a few minutes after the room closes, we can go over some of the little bit more basic stuff if you want. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about Mirrors versus PFG, actually, Gustavo. Mirrors has been around 93 years. You know, but truthfully, I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of corruption in the world, but, you know, I would say that Mirrors wouldn't be one of them. They've been 93 years, and we've had nothing but great success with them. There's a lot of crooked people in this world, unfortunately, nowadays. And the sad part about it is they get away with it. Read some of the stuff about John Corzine, to give an example, with MF Global. I mean, he got away with murder practically, financially. Okay. Yeah, I'm PFG too. What was that guy's name? Anybody remember? I don't remember his name. All right. So anyway, the whole idea is Wassendorf, okay. Taking this trade, like I said, even if you want to draw the trend lines instead, see how I like to draw trend lines? You can clearly see a trend line as it starts making these lower highs, higher highs and higher lows, right? Well, I try to take the first one. Let me just kind of break this a little bit more. See how you can kind of see it right there? See how you get that first thrust up, you get the little reversal candle, you pull back. So your trend line would probably be, to be really accurate, let me just take this off. I'll draw it the way I would draw it. I'd take this low, and I'd take it through that one right there. And that would be my trend line right there. And a lot of times, by the way, you can add to these trades too. I mean, if this thing decides to break, for instance, in a zone like we got in the room, You know, like you guys got in the room, that is. All right, see that? You're in the trade, right? You're already up 6 ticks while everybody else is thinking about it. All right? There's 9 ticks, right? And there's 10. See it? Well, not quite 10. I guess we got one more to go. There's your 10. Don't you notice they always, when they break down, they'll come into support. See support right through there? And then they bounce a little bit. Let's see, what would be your realistic entry on that trade? The entry that was called on that was 53. Laura said, I would have called 52 because, see, it came up above the line here. It never took out the high, so you didn't get your long, and it broke below 52. So let's see where the entry on the Trendline Trader would have been. It would have taken at the very second that was breached, so you would have gotten probably 51. Would have been 51. Okay? And by the way, that's a good trade. Now, when you get your first little thrust up, little retrace, you could draw a trend line, but that one's too flat for me. So I would wait for this thing to drop a little bit more and see if we could draw another trend line. There's your trend line again. See it? See how you could draw that trend line right through there? Let's see. Robert, you saw that trend line too, didn't you? Are the entries on the Trendline Trader market orders? Yes. Trendline Trader does not automatically draw the trend lines. You draw the trend line yourself. I'll go ahead and show that in about another 5 minutes, okay? But let's draw a trend line on this right here. See how this came down like this? Well, if you would have drawn the trend line there first, that's too flat of a trend line for me. I will not let a trade retrace that much before I take coin off the table. Okay, so I would have drawn that line because that's the way it happened. But then the moment this dropped further and got our first little pullback, like so, then you just simply take this trend line off, draw this trend line right here, right down through that top. See it? Thrust, retrace. And then you could stick with what we call a gusto trade. See it? See it kiss that trend line? Didn't take it out. See how that candle right there would have made me nervous, but since it closed below it, we stay in. Or you could take the last high out, but keep in mind sometimes those highs can be, you know, keep an eye on your trade, because if they drop a lot and then they come back a lot, your high is going to be way too high. You see what I mean? So be careful of that. I personally like trend lines, and I'll draw a trend line on the trade. See, your trend line's still intact. See how we drew it way up here? That one didn't close outside the line. Still on it. Still okay. Starting to make me nervous right there. But you could always use your highs, right, if you wanted to. And if you want to stay, now I would take at least a contract off because that took out that trend line. But if you want to stay with this trade longer, here's the way I would draw this trend line now. I would draw it down right through that candle, and if it goes ahead and takes more than this resistance out, I don't think I'd stick it out. See, it's right there. If it rolls, we're okay. Yeah, we're still okay. See how it just tested resistance? So if you want to stay with an extra contract, there's your trend line for sure. See it? As it's happening, you can just do that. Okay? So I draw a nice tight trend line, at least take a couple of contracts off. Okay, very important to never let this silly thing come back to your cost, right? So draw those trend lines and you'll stay in some of these trades pretty good. See when it gives up the ghost here. Still in, still in, still in, still in, still in, still in. And I always draw my lines across the bottoms too. Always do that. Okay, let's go ahead and bring this line down to right there, because you got a swing right here on at 95, right? I'll bet that was called in the room too. There it is right there. Just nailed it. Okay, now let me ask a question. If you want to stay in this trade and this thing has dropped a lot now, where could you get out of this trade? Okay, this trend line was not violated, so we're okay. But when we get a good drop like this, couldn't you draw another trend line? Let me show you how I would draw it. I'd take that high and I'd draw it down through those highs right there, because I don't want to give up this trade, especially when it hits a major low. See it? Major low. And then you're out of the trade right there. See how beautiful that works? Isn't that a good way to trade? Absolutely is, isn't it? Okay, now what would you do on this trade if you wanted to short this thing again? You'd want to make sure that you checked your fibs, wouldn't you? Oh, absolutely. And with that trade, Ryan's saying done for the day. To give an example, let's just count this up. All right. Remember, we got our trade. Okay. We waited for our first pullback so we could draw a trend line. So we got out of at least one contract here, came back, kissed support, or pardon me, resistance, rolled over, and then you finally get out of the rest of your contracts down here. So let's say that you did two and you got out of this trade right in through here, say, okay, and then you had two more riding to here. Yeah, that'd be a heck of a morning, wouldn't it? And then while everybody else is going, doggone it, I missed that good trade. What's going on here? Why can't I trade this? That's the whole idea of it, right? Okay, let's take some of these lines off and I'll show Line Trader. Bear with me a second. Drawing tools, remove. We'll remove the fib too. I think I got a fib on there also. Select all. All right, let's go ahead and go with Line Trader real quick and show you how Line Trader works. I'm going to go to the end of the chart. Okay. Oh, by the way, I wanted to show you too where you can see a trend change, but we'll go over that another time, I guess. All right, but Line Trader is a tool that we have, and even if somebody's on trial, you've got this tool. It just won't work live. All right, it's in your strategies. Now, I've had people ask before, where's my Line Trader at, or where's my strategies? Well, keep in mind, if you've got Chart Trader on, you're going to have strategies grayed out. Okay, so if strategies is ever grayed out, you won't see this Line Trader. Okay, so make sure Chart Trader is not turned on, and then your strategies won't be gray. You just simply go down here to Viper Trendline Trader, double click it, make sure it's enabled to true, and then set your settings the way you like. Now, personally, I leave the defaults on and then I change them inside the strategy. But let me show you what several people asked about Line Trader. You mentioned check fibs. Could we show how? Sure, Andrew. Just a moment. We've even got an auto fib checker with Platinum. Okay, here is Viper Trendline Trader right here. This is my baby right here. This was developed because of my type of trading with trend lines. Okay, we came up with this idea of trend line trading. This is a green line for a long, red line for a short. First exit of contracts. In other words, say you have entry quantity 1 and entry quantity 2. Those are your exits for those. And you just simply enable them. To give an example, let's say that you would have seen this trade right here. And by the way we try to teach this, you would have seen this trade too. This is a conservative entry, by the way. See right here? You might have felt a little heat, but not much. But let's say that you fired that trade. Look at that monster. And all you do to enable that is just turn it on, and it turns to a solid line, like so. Okay? You can use it any way you want too. You know, I mean, just like we were talking about way back here when we were trading this in the morning, you know, when it was short, you could use Trendline Trader and just happen to have a short line. You know, use the line itself, of course, the trend line, but you just draw it, and that would fire that trade. It would fire this trade. Waiting on that, see what I mean? Like a 10-tick trade. You could have fired the long trade that I got, that one right there, remember, that we drew, and the other one. So you can see when you get a pull down at all, see how you can see that trend line right now? See it right there? Michael, thanks for coming in. It's pretty late there, huh? Well, have a good one. Brad, on your question, the bands are not on your trial, but they will be. Okay, Rich is actually working today, as a matter of fact, on getting the everybody that has not had the trial yet on Platinum will get the dynamic trend, which is these lines here and these shaded areas. You'll also get the right edge. I think you're going to get the auto fibs. Somebody was asking about fibs just a few minutes ago. I'll show those. Let me just go ahead and take this off. All right, let's put auto fibs on here. You can draw fibs, by the way, with NinjaTrader too, okay? With NinjaTrader, you just go to Drawing Tools and Fibonacci Retracements, okay? We have one called Auto Fibs with Viper Platinum right here, and you just simply put them on your chart. Dynamic bands, Jim, truthfully on that, that's kind of a well-kept secret that Rich, I'm sure, is more than likely not going to share with anybody, including us. It's just the mind of Rich, actually. I mean, he's got, like I said, a very analytical brain that has been trading for 40 years, and you know, he's developed this stuff right here. Pretty incredible. He's a very good scripter, and he's good at analyzing. See, here's your fibs right here, for instance. See on this high right here and this low right here, and they automatically adjust. See, like if I wanted just to see this little area right here, I can do that just simply by, you know, getting this area on the whole chart. You know, if I want to see that, I can just move it to where that's my high and low right there. See it right there? And then there's your fibs. The fibs automatically float on the chart, which is really cool. Do we have to have all those drawing lines? Well, the whole thing is, this is actually platinum. This is everything that we've got. We're getting a little off subject here, but let me just show just a little bit. Let me get rid of this. When you get with Viper, you're going to basically have on the trial even just the basic scripts, and then we have a package called Pro, which is what I trade every day. That's just like this, okay? And then you can, if you're on Platinum, you can actually add the others. Platinum actually has so much stuff in it, it's incredible for as advanced as you want it to be as a trader. These are the indicators with Platinum. We've got ABC indicators, auto fib clusters, auto zones, dynamic trend, EMA daily that shows on your chart, stats that you can even check your auto traders or to see even trading manually. Some of the best trades, setups based on like dynamic trend or right edge. I mean, just so many things. It's incredible on here. He's got a lot in this. All right, I only strictly use the right edge, the dynamic trend is what I put on my charts. Also have auto trading in Platinum too. Is my sound going away? Or is my sound okay? Somebody's saying it was going out. Oh, the audio's good? Okay, it's probably just somebody else had some audio problems. Okay. All right, let's see who's, those clutter lines were just too many to look at yesterday. Jim. Well, I dropped by the room yesterday near the end. Or are you talking about when Rich was showing the Platinum at the end of the webinar yesterday? That might have been. Because I find, truthfully, I mean, just to give an example, you know, here's a trade right here even that in Viper is a very, very good trade, the way we've taught it for years. This is a blue bar probe right here. And you just simply take the trade when it breaks by one tick. You're still short on the guidance, and you take the trade, and there's your 10-tick trade. You know, they're just all over the place. Well, the right edge indicator, this webinar is not really about the right edge indicator today. Rich went over the right edge last Monday night. Be sure and look at that webinar because he went over it quite extensively. Okay, let's see. Did you happen to record that yesterday in Wednesday's educational room? I did record the educational room. So it hasn't been put up on the website just yet, but it will be. And Pat, on your question, there's really not documentation to explain the tools. We actually, when Rich decided that he wanted to get this out to people, we really wanted the documentation first, but then we got to thinking, you know, these tools are so powerful that a lot of people are going to want them. So what we're doing in the meantime is just doing all kinds of webinars on it. Every single Monday night webinar will be on Platinum. Let's see, they weren't these band lines. He was putting up clutter lines one on top of another. I'm not sure on that, Jim. I don't know. For the trial next week, do we get a login for the website? No, PR, but you will get a couple of webinars. We've decided to release a couple of webinars for people to look at. The recorded webinars, unfortunately, are for members only. Rich was probably showing fib clusters. I think that's what it was. We won't go into a lot of that. But basically, today's webinar was to teach you how to do some of these choppy times where you can clearly see that you can get some of these trades. Okay. On Thursday, I talked quite a bit about how to recognize a trend change. You know, when does a trend actually change? You know, you can just watch it over and over. Let's just watch and see how this did. See, that's 8:30, still heading down, still heading down. Okay, you got a high right here, right? That's pretty much telling you that trend's going to change if it takes that out. But it doesn't mean it changes until it takes it out. See there? Hadn't taken it out yet. See? Still heads down. That's how you can tell when a trend changes. See how you just knew that if it didn't take out that swing right there, it was going to head down. Sure, I can show the 6E chart. Bear with me a second. We can just change this one to a 6E. Well, the Fibonacci clusters, they do add a lot to a chart, but what you're doing on that, you're not really going to leave them on there. You're going to actually trade it and watch for those clusters to kind of be an area of support or resistance. That's all that's for. Fib clusters, a lot of professional traders use those because, you know, when you get one swing and another swing and another swing, well, they cluster in an area before they head that direction again. And that's all Fib clusters are. I don't really use those myself, but you can actually use those if you'd like to. I mean, we've got so many tools with our stuff. It's just incredible. JL, I can talk more about a trend change. Let me show the gentleman the 6E first, though, that we were talking about here. All right. Now, let me ask a question. Even at 7:21 in the morning, what was the trend on 6E? You know, could you tell? You know, for instance, you had a high here. Let's just look. You had a high right up here. You had a low right down here. Yeah, isn't it long? Absolutely, it's long. So let's see what time we started trading. There's a nice red bar probe, by the way. Okay, one thing I want to show you about, I showed this in the webinar on Thursday. Keep in mind that if they break these little swings by a little bit, that is not a trend change. Let me show you. This is a high. All right, we're going to change that to blue. All right, this is a low at the time, right? See it right here? And you could draw a line. Let me show you how they like to fake breakout traders. All right, let's go on down here. All right, see how that's a low right there? Now, they may just bounce off of that, or they may actually wick it a little bit. And that's where breakout traders get killed, because they don't have this software and they can't see that this is actually going up. Okay? So let's look at it and see where it came down. We're not up yet. We don't care. Don't care. 4 o'clock in the morning is too early for me. All right, there. Right there's a kiss trade, by the way. If this was actually to try to head down again, it's probably, now keep in mind, it's not going to necessarily head down just if it breaks this little swing here, okay? Because this is a major uptrend, okay? But you've got to also keep an eye on these consolidation areas. This is that same area I was telling you about earlier that's flat, See how you can tell it's flat? What'd you have? You had a low? That's crazy. I never defaulted that box to black. Wonder why it's doing that. I'll fix it. I will default it. There we go. Won't do it again. All right. So see, you can see that that's a flat. Yeah, it's a black box trade, Hardy says. See how you can see this low, this high? It comes down. This is a flat box. Now, where do you draw your trend line on that? Just like I said earlier in the webinar, didn't I? You're actually looking for bounces off support once it actually shows that it's flat. So what's your next trade? Right there. See it? Just hit a kiss. Professional traders are in that trade right there. Okay? Or what if you wanted to take a trend line break? If you take a trend line break, I don't remember what it did, but if you take a trend line break and it doesn't do what you expect, where's your stop on this trade? Just right underneath the line, right? Just a few ticks. See there? Trend line break. That's, by the way, on whcih, how much of a trade is that right there even? Let's check it real quick. You got in at 69. There's 86. That's 17 ticks times 1250. How do you recognize that entry? Is that Mary? Last name, first name Mary? Okay. The way we recognize that trade, we're actually looking strictly for long trades because obviously this has been heading up and we've got support right here where I drew that line. Okay. Now the best trade was right here when it kissed. Right here. See it kiss? That's called a kiss trade. We teach that trade in our webinars. All right. So what you can actually do with a trade like that is take it, give it a few ticks just in case they decide to pop it a little bit, or just wait on the trend line. See the trend line, you can clearly see was already in effect because you could see the high, the pullback, and you draw a trend line. I love trend line trades. See, here's another one right here. And you can see it as it's happening. You just wait for the thrust, a little retrace, you draw a trend line. There's a 10-tick trade. The thrust, a little retrace, you got a trend line. See it right through there? And that got a 10-tick at least. And that got a 10-tick at least. I got a whole lot more than 10 ticks. Everybody see that? That's a consolidation, what you call consolidation just sideways. This consolidation we were looking at on oil earlier was lower highs and lower lows, remember? This is a high, this is a low, it's the same high. So you've got a box. Now what about the breakout traders? Let me show you what happens to them. All right, let's say that you said, I'm going to take a breakout if this takes out this box by 2 ticks. Or what does the market do to you? You're in. See what I mean? Breakout trader. We're going to fake you out, breakout trader. Wow, did they fake you out? Think about that. That doesn't look like a lot, but let's just say that you got in right there at, I don't know, say you thought, well, if it goes to 87, I'll get in. Well, you got 4 whole ticks, and I bet you didn't get out, and then you lose another, what is that, 17? 17 ticks? That's over a $200 loss on that trade. That's why we don't take breakout trades. I don't take breakout trades. Now, I'll take a breakout trade of a swing, but not of a consolidation, because that first trade right there is going to fake you every single time. Now, if this was going to work, let's say, for instance, that this just decided to go up at this very moment. What I like to see on a breakout trade is for this thing to go up, then pull back. And then if it sits on top of my support, I'll grab it. But I will not take that breakout trade simply because that's exactly what they do to you every time you take them. Markets know how to take you, believe me. How much of a thrust is ideal? Well, it really depends on the instrument, but just like when we talk about even a trend change, for instance, and I don't know if I can find a trend change on, yeah, here we can, on 6E even. See how you had a low here, you had a high. Okay, your previous high was right here before your low. So once it breaks this, it's trying to head up, isn't it? Everybody see that? That's all you got to look for. Easiest thing in the world to do. That's a high. Let me set that as default. All right, this is a low down in here, right? Now this is a high right here, but it's still lower than that one. See, if you were looking at this, that's still a lower high. So that's still short. Everybody see that? All right. They come down, they double bottom. That's what you'll see a lot, or they may take it out a few ticks. So that's your high right there, right? You're actually looking for it to break that high. Now that doesn't mean you take a breakout trade though, because what are they going to do a lot of times? They'll wick it and then they'll pull it right back down. But what you want is a thrust up, okay? And then you want to pull back into support, okay? That's really important, by the way, because if you don't get any kind of a pullback, see how that pulled right back into support on top of that? Let me just draw the line. You can see it. See how I just perfectly kissed it? So let me ask a question. Was that actually a trend change right there? You know, you had a low, you had a high. This was your previous high, so you really needed to break this one even. That's when I would be looking to trade it. All right? Let's see if we get it. All right, because you never took out this low, so that's not technically a low. This is your, pardon me, your high. This is your high right here. So once you take that out, okay, you wait for it to come back into a support area. See how it came into that support area instead right there? And if you don't take that one, just wait on the first yellow bar. There's a beautiful yellow bar, by the way. See it? That's the one you really like right there, is that yellow bar. First after a trend change. Everybody see that? Always be looking for these higher highs and higher lows when you're getting along. And you don't have to chase a trade. You'll see us in that room continually not chasing trades. I don't care if it makes a thrust up of 30 ticks. You know, I want a pullback trade. And with Trendline Trader, you can get those pullbacks. And also with the dynamic trends, you can get them too. And then always use your zones too, you know, to get these nice trades. Okay? So you can see this one busted the zone right here. Okay? It pulled back, didn't take you out, and you just kept going. Okay? Now, let's see, $125 bills on 10 ticks on 6E, absolutely. Now keep in mind, if you've got some other tools with us like Platinum, you can nail some of these trades even better than this too. Because, you know, for instance, there's a midline that we look at for the first pullback that works really, really well. Okay. That's how you can make some very, very decent trades though. You know, what is 6E doing right at this very moment? I mean, it's not trading, of course, right now, right? But right now, you've got a high up here, which is a blue, right? Because it's still going higher. You've got a low right down here, which is taking out this low, by the way, but, you know, that's just a minor one. Okay, so that's your low. It's still higher than that low. But you're now getting a high that's not quite getting as high as this. So just about bet you're going to start going, you could draw support through here. You could draw your resistance right up here. Right like that. And I'll bet you can trade this box right here. I just about bet you can trade it. Because if they take out this low, then they're saying we're not going up anymore. We're starting to head down. Because that's your 1, 2. But remember what I taught on Thursday night. This is not technically a 2 yet until it takes this one right here. Has to be, you see what I'm getting at right here? You've got, I'm trying to explain this exactly. Let me just show you. Remember we talked about this. See how that's the same high there? So this doesn't count as your first thrust because that's the same high again. This is your 1 right now so far. But you've got to have a 1, 2, and then 3, and you've got to start taking out this low here. And we'll watch that. I'll show it on Monday morning. But always, if you trade on the correct side of the trend, you're not going to be losing money. Would you have wanted to short 6E for crying out loud? Not when it's heading up like this, right? You're strictly looking for long trades. I mean, 6E is obviously looking for long trades. Let's see, so you want to find the last blue dash as a swing high and pink for the swing low. Jerry, a little bit more than that. But just to give an example, like right now, you're basically double topping on 6E so far. But aren't you just kind of in a sideways motion right now with a little higher low right now? But would you actually take a long on this yet? No, but you might do this. You might be watching something like right through there. Just kind of draw a line like so. And if that's not 10 ticks to that top, I won't take it. So 55 to 70, I'd probably take that if it breaks that trend line to the upside. But I'll probably take it for sure if it comes down and kisses support, which is down around this 27 area. And if I look at platinum, it may even have a better entry than that. All right, everybody, we ran about an hour and 14 minutes. Everybody get something out of the webinar, I hope, because we trade like this every single day in the room, and you'll get some great calls. People that came in on our trial for the week and also the room, be sure and join us on Monday in the room and also on our webinars all next week. And try to soak it all in. There's a little bit to it, but you'll pick up quite a bit. Let's see, Walter, I'm new to this. I will take the trial. Besides videos, what else would you recommend that I review over the weekend to get ready for the room? Well, Walter, being on trial, there's not a whole lot that you can. It's basically just this webinar, and then you'll be in the room on Monday. Our trials are basically designed for one thing more than anything, and that's just to show people that we've built some great stuff. We know how to trade it, and we hope you come with us. Ryan, let me write down your team viewer just a second, and I can fix that for you. And what's the password on that too, so I can get in? Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap. I'll have this webinar up in about probably a little over an hour, hour and a half for our members. And thank you very much for coming. Let's see if we can make some serious coin again on Monday. Walter, TeamViewer is teamviewer.com, just TeamViewer.com, and you just download the free version. Thanks, everyone, and have a great weekend. I'll be on Skype and also phone if anybody needs me, and I'll take care of Ryan first. All right, thanks, everyone. Bye now. Thanks again.